Welcome from my side. My name is Julian Krebs. I am right now in KUKA, Germany, Augsburg, and I will show you a little bit about our new product, KUKA iiQoT. Um, just at the beginning, iiQoT, the product itself is a play on words in the direction of IoT. So this is a strict KUKA robotic IoT solution where we gather information in order to digitalize your robots on a shop floor for increasing or boosting your own efficiency working with them. My agenda for today covers these five points. First, I want to show you a little bit about a target application. Then I go into the product. Then we have two sections where I basically show you a product demo of the different contents this product will come. And at the end, I will show you how to install, how to get iiQoT for yourself in order to use it. For the target application, I want to start with the point or with the question, why do we actually digitalize our shop floor? We do have all various amount of machines on the shop floor, which are basically being required in order to produce and have robot-based automation running. And these machines produce information and data. And this data needs to extracted and transferred and stored at a specific spot in order to be analyzed. With these analytics, we then create useful insight, and this useful insight also needs to be visualized for the users in order to consume, in order to use this insight. So the overall objective about digitalization is, first of all, increase production output. With machine transparency, you act better, you act before something happens. And the other side is staff efficiency. So in order to, or if you have useful insight, you basically reduce time waste, troubleshooting, finding different root causes, stuff like that. And both of these objectives are being covered with this product from us, from KUKA iiQoT. The next point is, where does KUKA actually digitalize the shop floor? So this picture right here shows, I would say, a path or a digital customer journey with digital products for KUKA all the way down here, and then basically goes into this cycle here. iiQoT itself focuses on these two factors, or on these two phases, which are interact and operate, and support and maintain. So interact and operate are daily tasks, whatever you have to do on these robots. Support and maintain, of course, troubleshooting, maintenance, recommendations, and so on and so forth. What I want to highlight here is that both of these phases are the longest phases in a robot automated production. And that's why iiQoT, working in these two phases, creates such a huge benefit and impact of these modules. How does KUKA digitalize the shop floor? Well, we do have the robots on the shop floor where they do their work, the purpose they're being bought and installed for, and they all work on premise. We do need to have physical connection and combine it with an edge gateway. That edge gateway basically creates the bridge into the internet. Why? Because it needs to be transferred to a specific cloud tenant. That cloud tenant is assigned to each customer individually, and basically being shared or transferred this information up to the cloud in order to be analyzed and visualized. Visualization will be shared then, of course, again, back on the shop floor where the users consume iiQoT and then using this insight. So what we do is we monitor assets and we create value. So how does KUKA digitalize the shop floor? In 3 simple steps. We need a connection between the KUKA robots and a gateway. The edge gateway itself needs to be configured in order to communicate to the cloud tenant, to the customer cloud tenant. And the cloud tenant itself needs to be requested by our customer in order to personalize and assign them to our customers. And here we do have minimal effort in order to connect these robots and use it for iiQoT. So what do we digitalize and what is the purpose for it? As I said earlier, we do have robots on the shop floor. They basically their data will be extracted, will be visualized, and iQT will put a focus on transparency of these assets you have on a shop floor. It will create you insight for faster troubleshooting, reducing time waste. Maintenance planning tasks will be more visualized and can be planned better, and convert unplanned downtime into planned downtime, right? Those are the big 4 focus points. If we have that insight, if we get that information, of course, we increase robot uptime, reduce waste of, increase staff efficiency. And the customers who will use this product will basically increase efficiency. If we get to my second point of the agenda, KUKA iiQoT, we do have this picture, we have seen it. If the customer uses iiQoT, a couple of things where transparency is really useful is that we now with iiQoT have the easiest KUKA diagnostic file pull and submit to KUKA ever. You will see in a second when I show you the product demo. We can prove if this inside root causes with the existing changelog of each robot. We do send out notifications personalized for specific anomalies detected, for specific messages and conditions. And we could check the robot time anytime, anywhere. And last but not least, this troubleshooting time will be reduced with this insight. And some other, or some more benefits, but later more. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is a cloud solution we're talking about, so data security is really important to us. And let me show you some short information about that. We host our product on Microsoft Azure. We are TSAC certified. We run the ISO 27001. We run, of course, latest Microsoft Azure security and compliance standards. We do authenticate our edge gateways with symmetric keys and certifications. The data we're collecting are solely robot system, robot information. The reason why we do that, we want to improve our own KUKA robots, products, services, and reaction time, of course. The data assurance we will give you is there's no backtracing of any user or product quality with this information. We don't share with any other third parties, and there will be no value for external parties if they would get a hand on that. Data storage rule, we run under GDPR compliances. We only store robot variables. No sensitive production data will be stored on our cloud. On top of the certification part, we also did a self-assessment on star level 1. We basically submitted our questionnaire, and we were certified by star level 1 for our solution. iQT is an easy entrance for digitalization. Why? First of all, we have no cost from KUKA for our customers. The little mark here is, of course, you're only using the cost-free content, you will see in a second, and you run our virtual gateway. But we offer the option, no cost for our customer. Next point is that our free content we offer with iQT runs for all KUKA robots. Here we are again. Number 2, that requires our operating system KSS 8.3 or newer. This covers robots all the way back to, I don't know, delivered 2012, 2013. So it's going almost back for around about 10 years. So this covers a lot of brownfield robots, but also every new robot is already under that point. We do have an easy onboard process once the commissioning is done. So once we set up that gateway, every physical reachable robot can be onboarded within 2 clicks. And this is a KUKA branded solution. I want to make that clear. This is our people developed that product, and it will run under continuous development for that product. Some limitations I want to get out of the way from the get-go, from the start, because I encountered them several times with customers. This solution, KUKA iiQoT, will only run KUKA robots, no periphery, no other robot manufacturers. There will be no full integration of iiQoT in customer clouds or customer IoT solutions. There might be some exceptions, but overall the baseline is no full integration. We will offer no on-premise solution, and the customer customization is not possible. There's some minor stuff we will offer you on the product side itself, but there's no adjustment on enhancement on your part. The product itself comes with a cost-free and a fee-based article. On the one side, we have the cost-free content. All of these modules are for free. So when you onboard your robots, you can use these 6 modules for your robots, and you're good to go. The accessibility to onboard these robots with iiQoT is all written on this homepage. It's our KUKA homepage on our product landing page, where you will guide it through every step you have to do in order to get that, right? If you have trouble on the way to set up the gateway or have other concerns, then of course you could reach out to KUKA and we will get in contact with you in order to help that. But it is all there for you to use, consume, and install. On the fee-based article, we do have some modules which are fee-based. So we have a fee per robot per year. So you have to repurchase that if you want to continue consuming that article. Of course, this article has a number, and you just order it from KUKA as any other product and as any other article. What's next? This, as I said, this is a KUKA branded solution. We will run continuous development on it, and we launch right now on a quarterly basis new features. And then, of course, once you use iiQoT Basic, the cost-free information, you will also get notified what's going on the fee-based side, right? So this is all in there. All right. The next point I want to cover is the product demo. Probably most interesting part of that. I want to start first with 3 general functions on iiQoT, which are really useful and really important to understand. It's selection and navigation. So if we start from the top here on the header of the display, we have a filter button, so we can fold that out, and we have an area for filters. And these filters, whatever we set in there, determine what kind of robots we're focused on to our modules. If we look at these filters, we have the site filter where we can basically select specific robot clusters in a specific hierarchy level. These hierarchy levels are meant to set up your organizational structure however it is run in your company, right? If you're a global company, then of course you probably decide by countries or by areas, and then you basically go deeper down into specific clusters. So as we have it here, we have different KUKA facilities, then we have different halls or buildings, and then we have specific cells or robot clusters, and then sometimes we can go even one step down from that. For these site filters, we can also attach more sites in order to get a specific to look at a specific group of robots depending on what we're looking for, besides those side filters, we also have specific properties we can throw on top. So in this case here, I added the property I want to look for a specific technology package, KUKA CNC, and I installed yes, and I basically look for a set of robots here. One more thing I want to add is there are some other properties which are basically just regular tags, hashtags. So whatever is not being or cannot be selected by KUKA software, you can create with your tag. So if you want to have specific applications, you have specific names for specific robots, it's all possible with these filter functions. If you have a specific set of filters they seem really important to you, then you can save these favorites or these filters, and then they basically show up on the top of your header all the time. You click on that star, and then you basically select your favorite filter function in order to look at these robots. If we now look at the view of iiQoT, two important things. I want to first look at the asset group view. So every time on the top left, you see amount of robots, and these robots are basically being represented in all these modules. So right now we look at data from 241 robots. If we select our just mentioned filter favorite, the KUKA CNC robots, then out of a sudden, this cluster, in this filter favorite, only 3 robots being included. So now my visibility, the data's iiQoT will show me now changed to this set of robots. If I want to see single assets, then I have to go on these robot lists, which I can find in my group view. And if I click one specific robot, then I see single asset information. And how can I see that is up here to the left where the amount of robots were standing a second ago, you find that fleet button. So it is important. You will see later in a lot of modules, there are different way to look at information. So it is important to check, do I have asset group view or do I have an asset single view about certain information? All right, that out of the way, I want to show you now the iiQoT basic cost-free content. As I mentioned, those are the 6 modules I will show you here in detail. As we start from the top at the asset manager, as you have seen already, we do have information here, but what I want to focus on is the dashboard tab. So these dashboards basically show you a specific set of information. On the top right side, we have the settings, and on these settings, you can edit your personal dashboard. So whatever it is which is of interest to you, you can edit yourself. You have different possibilities of selecting existing dashboards or create new ones, name or rename your dashboards, edit whatever is there, rearrange, add new widgets, and of course, saving it. With that being said, there are different tabs where we can have specific information about it. However, that is the personal dashboard. So whatever I set up, maybe my colleague, maybe some other people who also have to use with that tool might not see it. That's why we implemented managed shared dashboards. So with that is the possibility to create, yet again, a dashboard, but it is under the cluster of shared dashboards. Here's the same thing. I gave the whole thing a name and a description, edit, rearrange, add widgets, and save it. After I saved it, every person basically selects, when they edit their personal dashboard, they basically find a catalog for standard dashboards. If they click on that, this list here will hold every standard created dashboard from your admins, the people who are admin on that dashboard, on that iiQoT product will be possible. We'll have the rights to create these shared dashboards. These shared dashboards, of course, if I select it and save it, of course, then I have it for good on my screen. The next module I want to cover is condition monitoring. Condition monitoring, basically, what it says is collects information and basically visualizes them, and we also have a list of notifications where the system will trigger me as a user in order to do something. As I can see here on the top left, I look again on 3 robots. That means I'm in the asset group view. And if I click on the top right, then there are the different notification rules where I will find all my different notification rules and which one I am subscribed to. Subscribing means that whenever this condition is being triggered, I will get a notification when that happens. Those have different use cases. One example would be that I want to see how often was operating mode T1 being triggered. There's a simple condition, and basically my system will track me how often that happens, and then of course I can say if that's an anomaly or not. These root subscriptions, I can subscribe or unsubscribe on them. Of course, on the top left, I have also the possibility to create new ones, depending on if whatever I need is already there. If not, then I create it myself. If I am looking at condition monitoring on the single asset view, then it looks a little bit different, because now I do have this visualization of my conditions on my variables, and I do have a certain amount of specific data points I can select from. For example, operating mode, program override, motor temperatures, if I change parts on the cabinet, and so on and so forth. So I do have that, and as you saw earlier, on all these conditions, I can set myself notification rules in order to be triggered for specific thresholds. One thing I want to point out is that all these data will be tracked for 3 months. So after every time, or we do cover the last 3 months from the current day. Whenever this day moves forward, of course, we basically can only grade you the last 3 months. That's it. If we continue to the next module, the changelog. Changelog is basically just basically tracks all the changes of my robots. As we can see here, is we do have a set of changes right here. We look again on my 3 robots. We have the tab for general changes. That includes any changes on mass strings or load data, category part replacement, technology packages changes, robot configurations, safety checksum, break tests, and so on. These changelog groups can be selected here. And one thing to point out is that we do cover a time frame selection, where basically we tell not only the system to give me all the changelogs from 3 robots, but we also tell them from the last 3 months, right? So if we adjust that, of course, the system will swap and will visualize the information just the way we request it to. Here we see like one specific group, for example, mastering. If I select that one, of course, then it will basically filter everything out and will show me only the ones which are running under the point mastering. And that's how I basically can check, I don't know, proactively whenever something happened, what was actually going on the machine, in order to find some root causes and get also some certainty in the production. On the other side, we have a second tab called Robot Program Changes. That's change logs for program changes. For example, points added, deleted, points touched up, added, changed point properties, changes in source or DAT files. So all of that is there. Yet again, 3 months back, we tracked it all down. You can look it up if you want to. We do have a search bar, of course. Yet again, the time frame is important if you want to specifically focus on a specific time window. If we filter a specific criteria, for example, I just typed in here touched, and of course it will only show me the touched up changes from the changelog for these 3 robots. The next module is messages. Messages is, of course, all the messages which are being showed on a KUKA SmartPad. But here in this dashboard, in this tab, being showed as messages KPI. So here we accumulate from 3 robots from the last 3 months a certain amount of messages. These messages, of course, also can be filtered. So we have different filter options in order to get more clearance out of this presentation of the messages. As I said, the time frame is here, and I can also set up some notification rules. For the filter itself, we can select as amount of, like we can select the type of message we want to look at. We can select the specific module we want to look at. If we do know the message ID, of course, we can also look for that. And in my case here, I basically put an active filter, and I want to only see acknowledgement messages. And of course, I look again on 1 robot in 3 months, and I basically used my filter function. If I want to save that, then I click here on the star. I basically press save current filter selections, and of course, I do have that, of course, saved under a specific name, and I do have that to my availability on that star button. If you look at this specific message here, for example, this message was hit 32 times and the last 2 days or this week. Now I want to set up a specific notification for that because this is what I want to track in particular. Set the notification rules. This looks similar to the condition monitoring part. It is exactly the same layout, same functionality. I do have, again, a set of notification rules for messages. I can subscribe or unsubscribe. If I don't find what I'm looking for, then I create new rules. That looks fairly simple. I basically name my conditions, tell it what I want to look out for. Then I have to tell iQT what kind of robots I want to in particular focusing on. If I don't select anything, I mean all robots. If I click on notifications, of course, I have to sign in myself as the receiver, and I also have the opportunity to add others if I want to set that up for a group of people. If I save that, of course, it being shown in my set of notification rules, rule subscriptions is on, and I instantly being subscribed because I know I called myself as the receiver for this rule. The second tab we do have here, besides the KPIs, is straight message list. That's basically what you see on a SmartPad, basically top down, newest on top, older, everything is getting pushed down. Here again, I have my filter functionality. I have again my time frame and my notification rules. And if I put another message filter in there here, for example, I basically only wanted to see the status messages, well, then it just shows me that. If we look at here, yet again, I look at the asset group view. If I want to have specific information for one specific robot, I have to click on the robot name itself. That throws me into the single robot view our list. So now, as we can see here on the top left, we do have a single robot view because it shows me the fleet, it shows me no number, and I can look at these specific messages. I said earlier that we do have the easiest way to pull and submit KUKA diagnosis files, so-called KRC Diags. If I click on fault diagnosis on the module, it will show me that there are some KRC Diags available. If I look here, I'll look at right now as a group view, and I'll look at the KRC Diag tab. With this information, it will show me what is available, of course, in consideration of what kind of time frame I selected. And if I click on the specific robot name, then it will throw me into the single robot view. And here I do have all existing KRC Diags and the possibility to pull a brand new KRC Diag. If I do so and if I click that, it will show me this note where it says, watch out, this can interrupt your workflow. Please be sure that you really need a KRC Diag right now, or if that's the right time. If you, of course, still demand that KRC Diag, you press start, and then it will get pulled. It looks like that. Once that's done, it will be stored as a brand new KRC Diag on the top because it's the latest. And here you have the possibility with the KRC Diag to download it yourself if you do the analytics of that diagnosis file. You have the possibility to add some remarks for specific people who will use it later on, and you can submit it to KUKA. If you submit it to KUKA, it will basically request what's the subject, what's the description, and what kind of KRC Diag you want to use. Of course, the latest one will be always being shown here automatically. These KRC Diags, when we save them, they will be stored on the cloud. No SSD storage will be used, and your submitted KRC Diag, when you press on send, will be submitted to the nearest KUKA office. So it knows the location of the user, and of course, for the US, it will go to Michigan, to KUKA USA. The last module for the cost-free content is maintenance. Maintenance covers all maintenance events which are upcoming for our robots or which are overdue. This is basically a list of all the events. Right now we look at all the due events which are in the future. We look again on an asset group view. We look at 3 robots accumulated to this list here. We have a status filter. So if we would have had some overdue, and if we would click that, yet again, the list would change. It would only show me what kind of events are overdue. And maybe some people know that we have different amounts or different kinds of maintenance events. If we click on these events, of course, also the list view will change depending on what we're looking for. If we click in that list on one specific robot again, we change that module into the single asset view, as we can see top here left. And here we see the amount of due maintenance events are being reduced because now we're looking instead of 3 robots to only to 1 robot. And I can use that in order to do a forecast what is happening in 2024. As we can see here, 2 maintenance events are due. We have here the 30th of March and the 30th of October. And then basically we can plan it in advance if we have to call KUKA to come to do it, or if you as a customer do your own maintenance on our robots, you can use that to your advantage. Yes, those are the modules right now from iiQoT Basic cost-free content. Now I want to show you the fee-based content called iQT Advanced. Same kind of style. We're gonna go through some slides here. One thing I want to note here is that the modules KUKA load analysis and backup manager, they have a slight delay. KUKA load analysis will be launched in January, so after Christmas, after next year, and backup manager will be released in Q2. But I will show you previews and I will show you how it will look like. So if we start with anomaly detection, we see here all existing anomalies. Right now it tells me there is no anomaly detected, which is good, but that defeats the purpose for me to show it. So we have to go out of my current selected asset group. I basically delete my robot filter, and now I look at 241 robots. Now I look at all robots, and here I could find 2 anomalies existing. These anomalies, of course, I need to be notified in order to act on that. So I click here on the top right to notification rules, and it will tell me here that it will show me here all possible anomalies. Right now there's only one because we launched it, but there will be more anomalies mechanically and on the cabinet side coming in the next quarter. We're already testing a lot of different and more anomalies for that. And you as a user, you only click in and say like, yes, I want to be notified. That's it. And then the system will tell you what's up. How does it will recognize when there is an anomaly detected? We do require minimum once a week a reference trajectory. That's a small robot movement in order to baseline the robot in order to trigger anomalies. If we go back on these list of 2 anomalies, if we click on yet again the robot name, then we swap from as a group view to single robot view, and then it tells me this robot currently has an anomaly going on, and here's the anomaly history. If I click on that specific anomaly, I can look into, and it looks like this. And we do have here the proof of anomaly where I can click on this condition monitor button, and it will show me that specific robot in condition monitoring on the specific timeline where it happened. Or I can use that little screenshot here. We provide screenshots for all of our anomalies, and it will look like this. So this is actually a good example here where we do have 6 axes, the temperatures of 6 axes, we run them and we track them down through the reference trajectory. And we see here axis 1 basically has a spike compared to all the others. And it might not look so bad off, but with the reference trajectory, we basically baseline all of our axes. And we saw here for axis 1, reality versus calculated and violation. And this violation will be basically being detected as an anomaly, and this will trigger a notification to you as a subscriber of this module anomaly detection. And this is basically how you will be triggered for something which will cause or which will lead to most likely to an unplanned downtime, and this gives you time in order to act before it actually happens. The second module for the fee-based content would be efficiency monitoring. If we look at right now at our iQT, I found now a module which is called efficiency monitoring. The reason for that is we don't have it on an asset group view. We do require single asset view, and if we do that, voila, we do have now the module called efficiency monitoring. If I click on that, it will show me for this specific robot, because I'm in a single robot view right now, it will show me all existing and called robot programs in that specific time frame. It will show me what was called and how often was it called. Plus, it will show me what was the last duration time or the last cycle time, and it will show me consumed energy. The reason I want to note that here, the reason why there says NA is this robot I have to use here for my presentation. It's an older model and it misses one specific robot variable for this energy consumption. We do cover, of course, every brand new robot, of course, requires all the specs in order to have that already available. But I just want to be clear here is that there are some robots out there which do not have the specific robot variable in order to use that to see the used energy. If I click on that efficiency monitoring on one specific program, then it will call the call stack. And yet again, I will see cycle time and energy consumption, same point here. Due to the age of the robot, I cannot show you, I cannot see the consumed energy, but it is, like I said, for every new robot, it is being possible to see. KUKA load analysis, I noted here already, this is just a mock-up, but I want to show you how it will look like. We do have under Asset Manager another widget, which is just called KUKA load analysis. And this widget basically can be used in order to see what kind of load was assigned and configured for my robots. I'm here in the robot group view where I look at a couple of robots, and if I click on the specific robot, then I go in single robot view, and I have more details on that. And if I click on these details, then I get the full report on that. And there are some important things to point out. We show overloaded when load data is higher than KUKA specs allow. So we basically like overloaded our robot, whatever the purpose was for. We do have faulty configurations, which are faulty or incomplete. And pending is basically that it basically requests a refresh of load data for first time commissionings because it was not being given that information yet. One thing is, if I do have an overloaded robot, I can straight jump out of iiQoT in KUKA load, and it will give me the right robot with the right settings, and it will show me what is going on right now according to KUKA load. And I would see, okay, I have a static overload analytics running here. I see my percentages being overrun for this robot being overloaded, and I have to change that, right? And last but not least, the backup manager. Yet again, that's also a mock-up, but it will look like that. It will be a module which I just click on. I see yet again on the asset group view all existing backups. Backups being said that there's a current robot project, right? So you cover latest programs, latest point adjustments, configurations, changes, etc. Of course, like with all the other modules, we also focusing on the time frame in order for the information to know what kind of backups we're requesting on these robots and in what kind of time window. If we click on one specific robot, of course, we go back into the single robot view, and like same kind of layout as for the fault diagnosis for the KUKA Diagpol. Same thing, I have the possibility to call a brand new backup. It will be stored in my list here. If I basically have a backup being like I have a brand new backup, I can download it for myself, or I can edit some remarks. One more point I want to make clear is that there is also a backup scheduler for this configuration. Unfortunately, I cannot show you right now, and it's not available in the mockup, but that's what will come in Q2 2024, where we grant you also a complete scheduler for all of you onboarded robots, and you basically set up a scheduling rule for one robot, for a cluster of robots, for a group, or for all of them to do backups at specific time, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. And yes, that's it for those modules. My last point I want to cover today is how to install, how to get iQoT. Fairly simple, as I said, is that to get the free content, it is all on our iQoT product page, right? The link down here. It will basically guide you through this page with some product information, some saving calculators. From that page, you will find also let's start button where it basically leads you to the iQoT installation page. That's how it tells you where to get the tenant request, how to get a gateway, how to find the installation guide, and it will guide you through step by step in order to do everything on your own. As I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, if you have problems with by doing so, then you basically reach out for KUKA and we will guide you and we will help you to your questions. What is needed to connect your robots to iQoT? You require the KUKA iQoT tenant. That's a customer-owned tenant. You will request that. That is being done by you. You basically go on my.kuka and like the installation page, the product page will tell you, but you go on my.kuka and you request your tenant. You give the tenant a name, you say who should receive it, and then you will basically will receive your tenant. The cloud gateway also must be selected by the customer. You can run virtually, which is the cost-free solution, or you can have KUKA hardware if that's what you desire. You basically can order that from us, and it basically serves the same purpose. Yet again, that's also customer action. You will also guide it through the KUKA product page through those steps. You basically request on my.kuka that you want one, and then you basically get a quotation or basically directly order it from KUKA Marketplace. What is also required is the IoT infrastructure in order to get the connection from the robots to the gateway. We need internet access, of course, and we need to connect these robots on the KUKA line interface or KUKA optional network interface. And that's, of course, that's a customer action on the customer factory side. We do require that in order to give you the possibility to use iQoT. And last but not least, robot prerequisites is we need the operating system KSS 8.3 or higher. And you need the technology package called KUKA Device Connector pre-installed 2110. Don't worry about it. If your robots have an older version or none at all, it is a complete cost-free software package from KUKA. You install it, that's it, and it will be activated automatically once you set up your gateway. And yes, of course, that also on customer side in order to set that up. So you as a customer, you have everything in order to start iQoT. If you have any trouble on the way, you can reach out to us at any time and we will help you do the commissioning part. For the summary, 3 takeaways I want to give you. So first of all, that's a KUKA branded product for asset transparency for free, right? You have cost-free content you can consume until the end of time. No one is forcing you to purchase any fee-based licenses. You, with this module, with this transparency, you convert unplanned into planned downtime. Whatever form and shape that takes, that's the big focus, that's the big benefit, the value of iQoT. And last but not least, the functions I mentioned earlier in the fee-based content are right now for free to use until 1st of May 2024. So every robot which is online before that day will automatically be granted access to premium functions. And of course, after the 1st of May happens, we will withdraw these rights. And then, of course, then it's the big question to purchase the fee-based article, or leave it as it is and just run with the cost-free content. And that's it for my presentation.
Industrial intelligence.